The wheel of the year turns. It is now mid-May and the country air is filled with the sense of fresh growth. Let us take a walk together through one of the peak's most dramatic landscapes, that of the Swythamley estate on the edge of the Staffordshire moorlands. This is the deeply incised valley of the Dane. From the old bridge, our path winds its way through the more modern coniferous plantations. The air is still and thick with the scent of pine. Passing through the wood, a warm and open vista is revealed. Carpets of bluebells lead the eye towards the outcrop of the hanging stone. From its summit, we can see the whole of the Swythamley estate. It originally sprawled across a beautiful landscape, bounded to the north by the great peaks of the Roaches and to the south by the wooded valleys around Leek Frith. Dating from the time of the dissolution of the monasteries, the estate passed the Brocklehurst baronetcy in 1831 and took on its appearance of today. Many of the paths and trackways which crisscross the moor are medieval trade and cattle routes, but some were laid down by the Brocklehursts to open up this mystical landscape to their privileged guests. Behind the hanging stone is a shallowly sloping plateau dotted with brackish peaty ponds, a host of the delicate flowers of round-leaved water crowfoot. After half a mile on the ridge, we reach the ancient sunken holloway which descends into Back Forest, one that is wholly more ancient. A cold breeze issues forth from the depths of this unholy chasm. Come on then. This is Ludd Church. This massive chasm in the gritstone was formed at the end of the last ice age, when there was a colossal amount of water in the landscape, so much so that it caused this huge section of land to shift several feet down the hill, revealing this massive ravine in the rock. Of course, because of its temperature, because of the mosses and lichens and ferns clinging to its walls, because of its isolated location, many strange and wonderful legends have grown up around the place. The most famous concerns Walter de Luddac and his followers, the Lollards. They were supporters of John Wycliffe, who was outlawed by the established church. They used the Great Chasm to conduct their religious services. Many searches were made, but the forest was too large and dense for them to be discovered. One summer's day, the group assembled for a sermon. De Luddac stood at the head of a 14-strong congregation, amongst them his granddaughter Alice. After a short prayer, the opening hymn began, but gradually the other singers stopped to listen to the beautiful voice of Alice. Whilst engrossed in her angelic song, Walter's trusted friend Heinrich Monter failed to notice the sudden trampling of feet as a group of soldiers stormed the entrance to the rift. They had been discovered. The lead officer called on them to yield in the name of the king, but Monter darted forward and grabbed the officer, flinging him amongst the soldiers, whilst calling to the Lollards to escape through the other entrance. The soldiers opened fire wildly, and a bullet rebounded off the rock face to pierce Alice in the heart. She fell upon de Luddac and died there in his arms. She was later buried outside the entrance to Ludd Church, beneath the branches of a great oak tree. Most of the other Lollards were eventually captured, with only a few managing to disappear into the forest. They were taken to London as prisoners. A few were pardoned, but several were imprisoned for life, with de Luddac being hung for his so-called crime. One of the most interesting local legends concerns a Mr. William Mills, who visited Ludd Church in the 1870s. Armed only with some ball, a twine and a lantern, he descended one of the small caves in the side of the rift. It soon enlarged and he came upon a gigantic cavern. Inside there he found the remains of small temples and carvings all over the walls. He'd come to the realm of the fairies. It was never seen by human eyes again, but it's still said that little people inhabit this place. And remember, they're not always good beings. Ludd Church has even more legendary associations. A 14th century medieval poem, locally rumoured to have been written by the monks of Dulacres Abbey, tells of Sir Gawain, Knight of the Round Table and King Arthur's nephew, who fought the Green Knight in the depths of his chapel. From the entrance to Ludd Church, passing by the site of Alice's grave, a narrow winding path leads through the ancient gnarled woodlands to Castle Rocks. These massive plinths of eroded gritstone are a spectacular sight when they first appear through the dense forest. When Sir Philip Brocklehurst gave guest tours of this valley, Ludd Church was the jewel in the crown, but Castle Rocks were the first sight of grandeur, and the wide view from their summit encroaches on all the senses. Beside Castle Rocks, Sir Philip's track can still be traced. His companions in their horses and carriage would have followed this down to the riverside, where the tumbled remains of an old smelting mill can still be seen. Downstream, the valley enters ancient oak woodland, the tree roots clinging to the hard stone, their branches festooned with mosses and lichens. In the deepest part of the gorge is another realm of the fairies, their homes said to be invisible caves in the living rock. Above the enchanting song of the River Dane, the woods are swathed with colour. Bluebell woods shimmer like a flowing stream. Legend tells that the fairies wove together such places with their spells, and any adult entering alone will be pixie-led by their enchantments. The bells of the plant are thought to call the fairies when disturbed, but lore also says if you can turn one of the flowers inside out without tearing it, you will win the heart of the one you love. Like many other plants, the impact of these deep blue blooms goes back further than you may think. The sticky sap was used by Bronze Age people to glue feathers to their arrows, and in medieval times to bind the pages of early books together. The Latin name for this flower is Endymion, who was the lover of the moon goddess Selene. The goddess put Endymion into eternal sleep so she alone could enjoy his beauty. To finish our walk, we leave the enchanted bluebells behind and follow the river until it returns to Dane Bridge. Southwards from the Dane, we meet the gentle sandstones of the Churnet Valley and get to observe a wonderful mammal at close quarters. More elusive than foxes, but undoubtedly with just as strong a presence in our vision of the countryside, is the badger. Its name derives from the Old French bêcheur, meaning digger, and indeed the strong front legs and physique allow them to construct complex series of underground burrows, called setts. Badgers are incredibly clean creatures. They construct special latrines on the edge of their territory to avoid defecating underground. An active badger set is instantly recognisable by the piles of old hay dragged outside to prevent a build-up of fleas. Each set is occupied by a family group of badgers, typically numbering around 6. After being born, cubs usually take around 2 to 3 months to emerge, and another month before they begin hunting for themselves. These playful cubs are between 3 to 4 months old and seem desperate to get above the ground. It may not be dark yet, but they are full of energy, bouncing and leapfrogging over each other. Despite the parents' obvious objections, they seem unable to accept that they are nocturnal creatures. Along with eating insects, seeds and fruits, they also enjoy bluebell bulbs. Earthworms are a staple source of protein. The average badger consumes roughly 160 in a night. They don't have to dig too much, as earthworms tend to appear on the surface in large numbers after dusk. Badgers will also eat larger prey such as voles and rabbits. In some cases they have been observed digging out rabbit burrows. Although their eyesight is poor, they have a powerful sense of smell, around 800 times more powerful than our own. The males are called boars and the females sows, both taking just over a year to reach maturity. Here they have found a perfect home, away from nearby paths with good tree cover, a variety of fruit-bearing hedgerow plants with dry ground, and lots of fields for hunting nearby. The number of badger deaths in England is truly shocking. Along with misguided cullings and attempt to control TB, around 50,000 badgers are killed each year in road accidents. But you don't have to go into the middle of nowhere to see animals. Many of the species we have already seen visit our gardens on a regular basis. To try and see what was visiting mine at night, I purchased a special night vision camera. This fantastic device is set off by the slightest movement. Each morning I returned to check what footage had been captured, though often it wasn't as wild a visitor as I had hoped. If your neighbour has a cat, it will undoubtedly have marked your garden as part of its territory as well. This little cat named Hester has decided the camera is hers too. But eventually I did see more than domestic animals. A large snuffling marked the first of our regular visitors. I caught glimpses of this male badger on several nights, often just fleeting as he marked his scent or ran off to find better feeding grounds. Even though the badger is fascinating, the most delightful sight was a small wood mouse who had taken up residence in the compost heap at the top of our garden. Wood mice love seeds, nuts, shoots, fungi and small invertebrates. They also gather food in the autumn which they store in underground burrows. Wood mice do not hibernate, although they can enter periods of long inactivity if conditions get really tough. One fascinating behavioural trait is the placing of conspicuous objects such as leaves or twigs at key positions in their territory. No other animal, apart from humans, is known to perform this waymarking behaviour.